Why I Left the Cult of Christianity, Part 1. I went to 13 years of Catholic school, and I saw my little brother thrown up against a brick wall when he was 5 years old by a nun um, for one of the children had put toilet paper in the toilet in all the in all the toilets apparently and flushed them all and flooded the bathroom. And I guess she determined it was him or his idea. And it's possible, but I'm not sure that that justifies. I don't know. She had gray hair. I'm gonna guess she was like in her 60s, like a 60-year-old woman throwing a 5-year-old up against a brick wall. I don't think there's anything that justifies that really. But and then that is pretty devious actually. Anyway, that was my little brother, and then he died when he was 25. Um, and I was pregnant with my oldest child when he died. And I woke up in the middle of the night when he died. I didn't know he had died, but I woke up in the middle of the night and I just felt like this immense peace come over me. And I didn't know what was going on. But I hadn't felt peace like that in a while, especially because I was pregnant. And so I noted it. Then about like, I don't know, 8 hours later that day, I had the day off at work. So I went to the mall here in Houston, and I think I was looking for a pair of jean shorts, cutoffs or something, and my aunt called, and I answered the phone, and she was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm at the mall," and she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah," and she says, "Your brother died in the middle of the night." I was like, well, nobody told me that he did. Like nobody's called me. How was I supposed to know that? I felt something, but my whole family has denied like all the things that I've known all my life. Like I'd say, well, this happened and that happened, and they're like, you can't know that. And so I was like, well, I do. Like they would always tell me that what I knew things that I didn't know how I knew them. It was just my intuition from the whole time I've been here. And and they would always like gaslight me. No, I didn't see that. No, I didn't hear that. No, I couldn't possibly know that. So I started believing them. And then I guess they figured I knew. I did know, but I didn't believe the feeling that I got. And I didn't make the connection because I had turned off all my intuition and all my knowing skills as a child, because they had done some rituals and stuff on me to make me forget. Some of them they would be considered traumatic to any adult. Um, and this was all before I was out of diapers. And then so they were mad at me because I didn't know that Doug had died. But then when I heard the story, it was like all weird because it was like my brother he had called my brother right before he died, and then uh I guess my brother's girlfriend at the time put a bunch of Doug had just gotten out of rehab, and he went home, and I guess his girlfriend was having a party, and Doug called my brother Tommy And Tommy, that's all I heard from Tommy. Now, Doug came and visited me last week and said that Tommy told him, dude, it's just one drink. But he also told me that Tommy called his girlfriend Ashley and told her to put pills in the drink, and that's what killed him. So anyway, I don't have evidence other than that's what my brother came and told me in spirit. Anyway, and you can judge by the however my older brother react, or however my whole family reacts, because they'll if they deny it, then you know they're lying. If their mouth's open, you know they're lying, basically. But anyway, then when I went and got a divorce in 2023, this guy starts messaging me. I was in the middle of a divorce. I hadn't filed the paper yet, but we had already told both of our families, extended families and everything. And this guy starts messaging me. We had already told the kids too. But anyway, this guy starts messaging me. And I think this is was God's way of getting me to file the papers. Because I knew a long time ago that it was an unhealthy situation for me and my children. And I was trying everything I could to extract us out of there. And I was too weak to do it. So God sent me helpers to kind of drag me out of that situation. Because I was staying in something that I should have, that had stopped serving me a long time ago, Anyway, this is a pattern that I'm seeing now. So then this guy, we start talking, and it's like, oh my gosh, he says all the right things. Go figure, right? And he was basically just a yes man until I left my ex-husband, and then it seemed like everything was a disagreement. And then and I left in August of 2023. I was talking to this guy and still trying to I had already filed as well. In August of 2023, I had a dream. God told me that I was consecrated to him, and I filed the paperwork that day, the divorce paperwork. For whatever reason, I couldn't do it before that. I just couldn't make, it's like I needed approval to do it, even though I had I don't know. I think this is the toxic patriarchy, Christianity, and I don't mean to there's a lot of good it does, but just the culture is very disempowering to women, I found. And if it works for you, great, but my parents were constantly, they raped me as a child and all this stuff, but then they constantly used honor your mother and father and all this other stuff to kind of tell me that it was my fault, I had no choice but to put up with it and all this stuff. And I think that's a bunch of bullshit, to be honest. Because it continued throughout my whole when I was 10, my mother sent my brother in to try to molest me, and I like kicked him, and like who knows what he told her he was doing, but because I used to go in there and listen to his vinyl with him and just talk, and my parents were always like, "What are y'all doing in there?" And I'm like, "We're listening to music. You hear the like we're sitting here talking about his artwork and listening to music. Just because there are two people in a room, that means that no." Anyway, but I guess now it's like I'm scared to have anybody else in my like room, because it feels like that's always the assumption, which I don't know why it would have to be. I mean, but anyway. And then so I left in August of at the end of August. Like it was the first, it was like September 1st or whatever. My birthday's August 30th, and they didn't do anything for my birthday. He was my ex-husband basically, and my kids, and which I guess makes sense. I don't know. I mean, to me, we were still family. And then I left Labor Day, well, whatever, September 1st I left. And I didn't know where I was going, because I was just like, I don't know, on this mission from God, like the Blues Brothers. I don't know. It's like I was obsessed with God as a child. Like Jesus was close to God. That's what I want to be. And then it was like, the Blues Brothers are on a mission from God. That's what we're going to do when we grow up, Doug. It was like I just have been, and I don't know if it's healthy. Because then I was a pharmacist for 17 years, and I was like, I'm going to have every order that I do, every drug or whatever, everything that I touch, everything that I do. And I used to tell my father this, like, you can either be the light in somebody's life, or you can, not, or you could, bring them misery and stuff. Why would you not? If you have the power to brighten every person that you interact with, if you have the power to brighten their day, why would you not? Like, why would you not do that? My dad was like, "You're crazy." Anyway, and then, so when I was working as a pharmacist, I was like, that every order and everything that I touch, every person that I interact with, every person that interacts with my energy, that they be healed with the divine, unconditional love, compassion, forgiveness, and the light of God, right? And so I didn't think much of it. That was what I did. And, like, things were just, I don't know, kind of wild. I think it irritated people. I was like basically awakening people, um, because I was healing like their nervous systems, basically. And then when COVID hit, it was like I irritated everybody's demons, basically, right? And they complained. And then, but I mean, there were a lot of people who appreciated how thorough I was, because it was like, they'd be like, "Okay, well, we'll send it in 10 minutes. I'm like, and then they hang up the phone and they don't, and I'm like, well, are you going to go, is it coming from Sterile Products or where's it coming from? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, why did you just tell them that it was going to be 10 minutes and then not even like follow up on that's like an IV antibiotic. Why would you not follow up on that? Like, you just lied to the nurse, you know? Anyway, it bothered me. And so I changed the way things were done because that's BS. I don't care how busy you are. You can't tell the nurse. I mean, people forget sometimes, yes, when you got like the phone constantly ringing, but if you just tell the nurse you're going to send it and then you don't even get up and do anything, investigate or anything, like, that's just, there's something wrong about that. To me, in my way of thinking, you know? Anyway, so I was like, I just did it the way that I thought it should be done. And then other people were like, oh, it's like, it had just never been done that way before, which doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, so then more people would kind of like follow up and whatever. But then, you know, of course, nurses expect better and all this stuff. But then they put me in telepharmacy. Well, I opted to go to telepharmacy because it was not a very pleasant environment in there. And I was like the overhead fluorescent lights and then the constant, like, surrounded by printers and a pneumatic tube system and the moldy air ducts. I was just like, this is too much for my nervous system. I got to do something different. And then telepharmacy opened up, and so I went to order verification for Epic from home. And we hadn't done it for the hospital before, but I was like, if you can figure out that it needs to be done, then I can figure out how to do it. So I did, and then I built the team up to 13 other pharmacists, and then they wouldn't, you know, like they were constantly, it was always a problem they didn't like. I don't know. Or maybe that's just the way it is, and I just wanted more say, you know? It just felt like everything I suggested, they were like, no, 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 no. Like they were in, it was like they had reached their maximum growth comfort zone, and they didn't want what I was offering. So, I mean, I think in Miami they're doing all kinds of studies on energy healing now, and actually I think they're doing it at U of UT. I don't know, but they weren't. I tried to I explained to my supervisor several times what I was doing, but he didn't really care, basically. And then I did, and my kids used to play sports, so I used to try to get time off to go to their games. So I'd find somebody to work it. Well, I'd ask for it off. They would not typically. Sometimes there was a chance I could get the time off. But typically I would just go find someone to work it for me, one of the PRN, because they got paid less, you know? And I was like, what difference does it make if you're just, you know, like, you're not paying them as much as you pay me anyway, right? You don't even have to give me PTO, just like cut it. And then when the computer system went down, I channeled this chakra healing meditation one night after work in my kitchen. And I told my ex-husband, well, he was my husband at the time, I was like, I'm scared to put this out because I'm afraid, like, what kind of impact it'll have on the pharmacy industry and, like, healthcare in general. And I was like, well, not everybody's going to believe it. Not everybody's going to use it. Maybe it doesn't work on everybody. And so I didn't put it out. And the next day, the whole hospital computer system went down for like the region. And it was down for 3 weeks. And we had moved to Austin by that time. And they were like, come back to the hospital. I was like, no, indeed, I'm not going back there. Y'all made me leave without telling anybody goodbye. Y'all told me to leave. Friday, you said, okay, Monday you start telepharmacy. Don't say a word to anybody before you go. And I feel like I've been grieving it since then. That was like 2.5 years ago. And then I did call back and try to tell people, but they were like, somebody else had already created some kind of story. I don't know what. But nobody ever talked to me about it. So anyway, I quit there after building it up to 13 because I didn't have any free time, and I had other things I wanted to do. I wanted to build a coaching program and write a book and do all this stuff, and they were like, I don't know, that hadn't happened. But I've basically been running around the country like doing grid work and healing all my ancestral and intergenerational trauma and all the stuff that happened to me during this lifetime. Like I was abducted for 10 days when I was in the Navy and assaulted and all kinds of stuff, and somehow I was left in Mexico and woke up in the Balboa Hospital in San Diego. What else was I healing? A lot of ritual abuse as a child. And, like I was 12 years old, my mother showed me the movie Sybil, which if you haven't seen it, it's a girl that had 23 personalities, 23 different, because of the horrific things her mother did to her when she was a child. And my mother's showing me this movie and she's got this big grin on her face. And I was just like, you did it on purpose? Like you actually did it like I was some kind of lab experiment. And then for real though, because like going through the Navy, like 10 days of sexual abuse and God knows what else. And just what else? My ex-husband on our honeymoon, and I was not a virgin when I got married. We had already, but it wasn't what he did to me, it was what he allowed other people to do to me. And then what else? This guy that I met while I was divorcing my ex-husband, he somehow talked me out of all my usernames and passwords, and like for everything basically. Had a copy of my license and my license plate, and I don't know if he may even had a copy of the registration and all kinds of stuff. Who knows? And like he just, but for some reason I thought he was going to marry me. I thought he was my twin flame, because everything that I guess I was looking for it, because everything I had heard about it was like, it's this, it's that, it's like a perfect mirror to you. So I was like, this guy who I thought was pretty impressive, I was like, and who was pretty popular. I guess I just like said he must be my twin flame, which made me like the opposite of that, sort of, because it's like the feminine half of the. Who's this on my other phone? Anyway, and then I'm freezing. I have got like this is what when I release trauma, like when I'm like healing my own trauma, like releasing traumatic memories and like the energies of the trauma that gets stored in my body, I get really, really, really cold. Like shivers, like shock, basically. My nervous system. Because it's like I've been like through so much that it's like, and it held on to it so much. Anyway, so I brought 4 carloads. I had retired from pharmacy because it was not working, and I was building this business. And then I went through the divorce. Then I was like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Am I gonna get an apartment and get a job, or am I gonna, because to me it was like a process of getting the business going. And for whatever reason, I thought I was gonna start a business with this man, who I'd only known for a couple months, if that. I mean, he may have known me for longer, because I'd come to find out he's been stalking me for quite a long time. But he had me fooled for sure. And so I brought 4 carloads worth of stuff. And I had a Subaru Ascent, so it was a lot of stuff that I had to bring. I didn't have to bring, but I brought to Goodwill, donated it. And then I put my 2 suitcases and some books and crystals and stuff in the car. And I started driving, I guess, to see him. We were supposed to meet in El Paso, and then like it was very weird. It was like there were homeless people all over the place. I'm going to tell you the whole story, because it's like I don't repeat it out loud, but then it's like I understand it better when I tell somebody. It's like I hear it come out of my mouth and I'm like, well, now it's so obvious, ding dong. But so I went to El Paso, and I don't know who this is calling me.